Hi, I'm Bob Childs. I've been a violin maker for 35 years now. Whenever I start a new instrument, I'm often reminded of the children's story, The Voice of the Violin by Claude Clement. In that story, he tells of a violin maker who crafts his instruments looking out upon a beautiful tree outside his window. His quest is to match the beauty of the sound of the birds that sing in that tree. Eventually, the tree dies, and he crafts an instrument out of wood from the tree. The instrument is magical, unsurpassed in its beauty. Consistency in the sound of the instruments is the hallmark of a mature violin maker. Over the years, I've been thinking, what would it be like to have a whole family of instruments made by the same violin maker played together? I believe that question is answered by our group Child's Play. The joyful sound of Child's Play lies not only in the skill of the many musicians in the group, but also in the familial timbre of the instruments that they play, a quality similar to the vocal blending of a family that sings together. Child's Play is about community, one joyful voice, united by the sum of its parts. The special skills of these individuals is fundamental to the sound of Child's Play. Over the years, I've received many cherished and unexpected gifts from the friendships of the many musicians who have walked into my shop here. I've asked several of them to help us inspire the next generation of fiddlers by teaching a lesson that was inspirational to them as a young developing musician. Now here's my friend Bonnie Bewick, who not only is a wonderful violinist with the Boston Symphony, but in recent years has come to embrace Irish fiddle music.
My name is Bonnie Bewick, and I'm a classically trained violinist. I'm in the Boston Symphony, and I'm also part of Child's Play. We've been playing together for a few years, and when I play with Child's Play or with other traditional players, I get asked a lot about how to sustain sound at either end of the bow, so a beautiful, slow, sustained sound. Mostly I think that's because traditional players use the middle of the bow a lot and are generally very efficient and great at playing the fast, chuggy stuff in the middle of the bow. But all of us run into times when we're playing slow, sustained airs or beautiful melodic waltzes or slow tunes, and you need some of the ends of the bow. And so I thought I'd talk a little bit about that. The first thing that I tell my students that I try to do myself is make the bow grip look basically the same at the frog and at the tip. So here would be frog grip. Here would be tip grip. Frog, tip. And then when you pull this out, it's a really uncomplicated bow grip. I see a lot of people with the tent or doing all these loopy things. You don't need any of that. Just try to keep the grip very relaxed and loose at and the same at the frog as at the tip. And the next element we add to it is the paintbrush, and that's where you can really start to use your bow as an expressive tool. And for that, there's a little exercise that I like to do where we start at the tip and we go play a whole note for 4 counts, and then we paintbrush at the frog. Watch. So the basic idea of it is to have your fingers be a little bit of a cushion to the bow change. So you can try it first with a pen because there's no weight on either end to have to deal with. And you get your nice bow grip. That thumb is really important for it to be slightly bent. And just balance all the fingers on there. And then just try to make that bow pencil move back and forth a little bit without moving your arm or your hand. And this is really a foundation for really great, versatile, relaxed, beautiful bow changes. Right there, there you go. As that relates to the classical, of course, this is something that classically trained players have been studying since they were wee, but as soon as you have any kind of versatility with your bow grip, you're being taught to cushion those bow changes ever since Suzuki Book 4 or 5. So when you relate it to the classical piece, which was a Bach unaccompanied movement from an unaccompanied sonata, that nice paintbrush thing going in there, and it really helps. Here's an example of if I lock my thumb bent inward or straight, and I prohibit myself from having the flexibility of these cushion fingers, this is what you get in that Bach piece. I'm going to try really hard to make it still sound good, but you'll see that it's difficult. See that every bow change has a little tack, tack, tack on it, which I could probably, I think a lot of people solve that if they can't free this up. A lot of people would solve that by using big muscles in their arm. You can get around it, but this is the best way, just to really unlock that thumb and get those fingers anticipating the bow change, get them moving for you. That. And in the traditional piece, you can just relate it, carry it right over to that. Maybe even better, I like this Shokan Farewell as an example for this, because it uses the whole bow. That Bach example was a little, left the tip out a little bit. Now it is possible to play that piece quite nicely and adequately just in the middle of the bow. But I think if you're trying to expand your horizons a little bit and make a beautiful sound, this is a great piece to work on. Any slow air, if you try to take the slow air and expand the edges of the bow. So instead of if I wanted to play at exactly the same speed and just use the middle of the bow, I would have to press harder in order to get the same amount of sound. And that makes the sound tight and nervous. So if you can get out to the other ends of the bow, it'll free up the sound and it just starts to sing, and you get that sort of pillow of sound because the bow is moving more quickly. And then if you can add to the pillow the cushion of the bow change, then you really get a nice effect.